One morning Douglas backed into the shed. He had finished taking a midnight goods to the other railway, and had brought something back with him that he'd found in the scrapyard, an engine named Oliver. He had left Oliver at the works to be rebuilt. The tank engine had been in a bad way. Douglas quickly told the other engines about Oliver. "Sir Topham Hatt will have to be told," said James. "Douglas should tell him at once," added Gordon. "Well, here he is," said a voice. "And what's this all about?" "Beg pardon, sir, but we do need another engine round here." "Yes, sir," Gordon added. "A steam engine, sir." "Well, unless one is saved from scrap, there's little hope." "Sir, one has." "Yes, indeed, and thanks to you, Douglas, he is now at our works. Oliver is just what we need." About a month later, the Fat Controller called all the engines to the shed. "As you know," he said, "Douglas recently rescued another tank engine named Oliver." Before he could go any further, a delighted smile crossed Douglas's face. "Do you mean he's ready, sir?" he asked excitedly. "Yes, indeed," the Fat Controller replied, "and he shall be working on your branch with you, Duck. He should be here any minute." The engines looked expectantly towards Knapford Station, but all they could hear was silence. There was no sign of an approaching engine at all. A few moments later, the yardmaster came running up to the Fat Controller. The Fat Controller turned and spoke to him, then turned back to the engines. "It would seem that Oliver has been delayed," he said. "I shall have to introduce him to you later. Please go about your normal duties." "Disgraceful," said Gordon. "Disgusting," put in James. "Despicable," finished Henry. Donald and Douglas were more worried than angry. "You didn't suppose the diesels got to him after all," Douglas said, worried. "Well, if he's going to be working a branch line with me, he's going to have to learn to be on time," Duck said angrily. "There's only two ways to do things, the Great Western Way and the wrong way. He's going to have to learn the Great Western Way." With an angry toot of his whistle, he puffed off. Donald shot a curious look at his twin. "Why do you not tell him that yon Oliver's a Great Western engine?" he asked. "Oh, he'll find out soon enough," Douglas replied innocently. Henry, James and Gordon couldn't help chuckling. They did respect Duck, but his pride did get on their nerves every now and then. Duck was still cross later that day as he puffed along his branch line. Running his own branch line was a great responsibility, and one that he didn't take lightly. He'd have to ensure that everything was done properly. As he approached Tidmouth Holt, the first station on the line, he could see another train waiting up ahead. He stopped alongside the train that was waiting. The new engine smiled over at Duck. "Hi, I'm Oliver." "You're a Great Western engine?" Duck asked, surprised and angry. "Yes, and a 1400 class passenger locomotive to boot." "What's wrong with that?" Oliver replied, angered. "You're supposed to know about being on time," Duck said. "This may not be the Great Western, but we still have an image to maintain." "I'm fully aware of that, thank you," Oliver replied. "What about this morning? We were all waiting there to meet you, and you didn't arrive." Before Oliver could reply, Duck steamed off. He was still a bit annoyed when he reached the end of the line, where Toby and Henrietta were waiting to take back some of the workmen. "What's up, Duck?" Toby asked as he saw Duck's annoyed expression. "Oliver's a passenger locomotive. A passenger locomotive with no sense of time." "I'm sure Oliver had his reasons for being late this morning," Toby said. "Don't be too quick to judge him, Duck." He puffed off before Duck could reply, but the Great Western engine had a feeling that Toby may have known more than he was telling. After being turned around on the turntable, Duck was still fuming. He knew that Toby meant well, but he also knew that the tram engine had no idea of the responsibility that came with being Great Western. He backed down onto a train that he was due to take back to Tidmouth. "Duck's angry," sniggered the trucks to themselves. "Let's bump him and make him crass or stale." The trucks waited until they had passed Callan Station to make their move. On, they screamed, bumping forward. Caught by surprise, Duck found himself running out of control. The line curved sharply ahead and Duck knew he was going too fast. He tried to brake, but he couldn't stop in time. Duck's driver and fireman jumped clear as he jumped off the tracks and careened towards the sand. Eventually he came to a halt, upright but off the rails. He was quite embarrassed. Oliver arrived a few moments later, shocked. "What happened?" Oliver asked. "Have you handled trucks before?" Duck asked. "No, I'm afraid not." "Well, you'll learn that can be tricky. Could you go and get some help?" Oliver quickly puffed away to leave his passengers at the next station. Oliver quickly returned with some workmen. While temporary rails were laid under the wheels of Duck's train to help guide it back onto the track, two of the workmen tied a strong rope between Oliver's buffers and the brake band on Duck's train. Pulling with all of his strength, he slowly brought Duck's train back onto the rails. Later that evening, the two engines were in the shed at the end of the line. "I'm sorry if I was rude to you," said Duck. "Thanks for rescuing me." "Oh, it's no problem," Oliver said, "but you never gave me a chance to explain why I was late this morning." "Well, why were you late this morning?" "Well," Oliver replied, "it's a long story."